It's April 24th, and I am bringing you once again a Wright County market update for this week. We're also going to briefly talk about showings and just any sort of interesting information to help you when you're ready to start looking at houses. I'm Erica Carlson. I'm with a boutique brokerage called Bricks Real Estate. I help people anywhere in the Twin Cities, but I focus on the West Metro doing the buying and selling and investing of real estate. If you learn anything new today, I'd love to have you join me on my YouTube, my Instagram, or my Facebook, my professional pages, of course. So I'd love to have you join along. Please like and subscribe. If you have any questions about real estate, whether you're ready to get started or you just want to unpack some things that you're thinking about, you can reach me at the link below. And then you're going to choose that first option. Of course, pick a time that works best for you. Whether you have a real estate agent in mind or you don't, I think that this information is going to be helpful. Now, I'm sharing once again with you information from my Smart Home Buyer book. You can download this for free when you go to my website, which again, you can find in the link, but I'll also put up here on the screen for you. So let's break down some vocab real quickly. A is for active, meaning it is available as far as we know. I'm putting a caveat out there because the data on the main database, the MLS, is all determined by the users, and the users are the real estate agents. So if the real estate agent is in the middle of negotiations, it says online that it's active, you go to ask for a showing and you're declined. It's just because either they're not through that period or they just haven't gotten to the computer. So it's not personal or anything like that. But again, it's based on humans entering that data to keep it updated. So A, active, meaning I can buy it. The one that confuses the most people is the coming soon, CSN. Typically on websites, it'll say coming soon. Coming soon is a pre-marketing strategy by the seller and the listing agent to get you excited about a property. And honestly, it typically works because a lot of you will be curious about properties. You'll be asking, well, where are the pictures? Why isn't there more information? And a lot of times people are ready to see it without inside pictures, which always surprises me. Coming soon is something that is great for planning purposes, but is not going to get you in the house that day. Typically, you're going to have to look for a date. And if you're on a website that does not provide the date, you are going to have to pick up the phone, whether you call the listing agent or your agent. Someone is going to need to tell you that it's coming available this day. We are not allowed to market endlessly in a coming soon period. So when you see one like that, you know it's coming on the market in the next 2 weeks. If the seller picks a day, let's say it's 2 weeks from now, and they change their mind and they want to go active sooner than that, they have every right to do it. So it is important that you keep your eye on that address in the event that they speed up their timeline. We are not allowed to push it back. Once we tell the computer system that this is the day it's going active, let's say the seller said, I need another 2 weeks, we're going to have to change into a different role at that point if that's the problem, because we're never allowed to do coming soon more than once, and we're not allowed to keep pushing it back either. So we do have a window. I think it's 21 days total, and then the house has to go active. So I'm getting into some nuances that aren't important, but I still think it's helpful. So, it's not like it's going to keep getting pushed back indefinitely. They really can't do that without some other solutions. TNAS is another one you might see, or temporarily not available for showings. Typically, we're going to ask questions when we see that if we're still curious about the property. A lot of times we're not aware of these properties, but it means that we cannot go see it, but it's going to come back on the market most likely. Now, there's always a chance that that person's going to cancel or that the contract is going to expire and that house is no longer going to be available. So oftentimes, if you find a house that is TNAS, we're going to call and we're going to ask. Maybe there's some water in the basement and they're getting it fixed before they're going to continue showings. Maybe they're in the middle of negotiations with somebody and they just simply do not want any more showings. So there's various reasons somebody might pick that option. It's not common by any means, but it's not uncommon either. Pending means they've accepted someone's contract. They've probably removed most or all of the contingencies, and they're moving forward. And so often if people call me about pending properties, I will generally encourage them to look elsewhere. It's not that a house can never come out of pending and back onto the market. That's not true. But I've had people quote me things that are highly inaccurate. It's very rare that houses come out of pending and back onto the market. You definitely don't want to bank on it, which is why I'm going to tell you to move on when you run into a pending property. And then lastly, we have active but with contingencies. Common contingencies on properties are they're getting an inspection. That's probably the most common one. If it's a townhouse or condo, something with an association, you might see A, R, which is subject to statutory rescission period, which means that person has time to review the HOA documents. And until that's removed, it stays there before it moves into pending. And then the other one would probably be they have a house to sell. So subject to somebody having a house to sell could be another one. And that one comes with more nuances depending on what side is putting that contingency, the buyer, the seller. If you are a buyer asking a seller to accept your offer with you needing to sell a house, it's important for you to know that you can be replaced by another buyer that does not have that contingency or has a better offer. So there's a lot of risk to that, and you want to weigh that with your agent, assuming you have one. When you're requesting showings, it's always really smart to pick a particular geographic area, even if your preferences are very wide. I think people underestimate the time and energy it takes to go from one place to another. And so when there's 45-minute, 30-minute, or even 15 minutes increments between properties, you're going to want to limit how many you're seeing. And then again, if you're like very widespread, like let's say you said the entire Twin Cities metro, maybe today is St. Paul or the St. Paul side or the St. Paul suburbs or something like that. And then next time we go out, it'll be Minneapolis or Minneapolis suburbs. It's just very hard when somebody says, I want to see this one, this one, this one. Both the agent and you are going to not necessarily find it to be as pleasurable of an experience. Big mistake I see people make is they want to see one. One generally isn't enough. And there's a couple of pieces of logic I can share with you. The likelihood that the one property you see on this website is the one isn't there. It's kind of like going to one open house. The likelihood that what's behind that door is appealing to you and is meeting all your criteria, it's actually extremely low. Even if you think, oh, it's my price point or it's this or that, there's too many nuances with houses that the likelihood that that's going to be the one is going to be the one. Now, there's exceptions to the rule. My husband and I have definitely met people and shown them a house and they say this is the one. That's probably a person that's done significant amount of soul searching on what they're shopping for. They know their priority list. Obviously, they're people who can make decisions relatively quickly too. But I'm thinking they've done an extensive amount of online shopping to know that once they saw it, they knew what they were looking at and it fit the bill. Most of us are going to see a handful of houses, not 60 houses, not 90 houses. That's completely unnecessary. But when you request to see a house, whether it's with an agent you've met before or they're new to you, I would always recommend picking two. Now, hopefully somebody else doesn't think that that's bad advice, but that's my advice. I strongly believe that it's a very good idea. On the flip side, I would not see more than 5. I really don't even care that you're out of, like, let's say you've driven here from out of state and you've got the weekend. You just only have so much energy to give to the process. And if you're screening these houses well enough, which you should be, and we're going to get to that in a second, you should not need to see 7 or 10 or 15 houses. And if you're not experienced with this, trust me, 5 is max. Like 5 is good. You should be able to take, if you have 20 favorites or preferred houses, you should be able online to take and keep narrowing it down to your top. And anybody who's worked with me has probably heard me say, pick your top 3 to 5. Like if you're giving me more than 5, or you've gone out many, many times, you know yourself well enough. And it's kind of a wake up call for us. If it's your 10th time out looking at houses and you're still wanting to see 5 to 10 houses every time, I need to have an honesty check and say, you probably don't know what you're shopping for. because you're looking for it to stand out, to jump out at you. We all know sometimes something just feels like home. Unfortunately, when we say that out loud, it doesn't help anybody help you get to your goal. We need to know your goals. No matter who your buyer's agent is, they can show you any property that's on the MLS. If it's a for sale by owner, they should make that phone call for you. If it's new construction, the same applies. Or you certainly should be telling them that you're stopping into open houses. One thing that can go very far from agent to agent relationship is, so if my client is telling me they want to see 123 Main Street, that I can reach out to that agent and say, hey, my buyer's coming through today. Everybody just appreciates this courtesy. It goes a long way in terms of you, like if you go to write an offer and that agent knows that you're already working with a particular agent, that means a lot. Before I move on to the data, I know some of you just don't know where to find an agent, and I don't have to necessarily be the person that you feel connected with by any means, but please be mindful. I just need to do a little bit of a PSA here. When you're clicking realtor.com, Zillow, Trulia, whatever website you've landed on, and you say, I want to see a house, I want you to understand you are typically not reaching the listing agent. You are not reaching out to the builder rep of a particular builder. You are contacting a local agent who's choosing to advertise on that platform. And he or she would very much like your business, and as most of you can imagine, doesn't particularly want to be used for their time to just meet you at a house and let you in, and then therefore you use somebody else. If you have a preferred listing agent, you should be an agent, just a real estate agent. That's your person, and whether you've signed an agreement with them or not, if that's the person that you intend on using to get you through the transaction successfully, it's who you want to use for whatever reason. We're not judging like your logic or anything here. That's your person. They make the phone calls, they set up the appointments, they meet you at the houses. If you're trying to reach the listing agent and you don't have an agent, you need to take more steps than clicking the button. Clicking the button does not lead you to the particular representative of that house. We talked about this before, so I think I can talk about it again. With the changes coming in the real estate industry, no longer will you be able to just pick a house, push the button, and meet somebody without signing an agreement. It's going to be extremely important you understand the fees of that particular agent and that you understand the agreement you're signing. So things are changing, and if you have questions about that, I'm happy to help. Again, nothing's finalized yet. I need to make that very clear to everybody that's listening today. Everything's a little up in the air. This is what we're seeing coming in the pipeline, but the days of requesting houses with a stranger that you've never met, it's not changing in that sense, but asking you to sign some sort of an agreement and explaining their commission structure and how they get paid will be talked about before you see houses. So I do think it's important that you start giving some more thought to who your buyer's agent is, because things are going to change in that domain. Moving on to the data, give me a moment to pull it up. Let's look at April 24th here quickly. There's a couple of things that stand out to me that I think you will find helpful here. So we're at 496 active properties in Wright County total. This isn't counting for contingencies. If we counted in the contingencies, we'd be down to 437. Assuming you're looking at the screen with me, notice just in the last couple of weeks, that's a lot higher. Last week we're at 474, the week before 468. And as I go back, it takes, these numbers are low, and it takes until about December before we're in the 500s. So it's been quite a while since we've had inventory like that. So that's one thing that really jumped out at me. To me this week was seeing that the inventory has gone up. And so home sellers, if you have been on the fence, please take note. More of your, I'll call it competition. The other people in Wright County are doing the same. People, it's greening up, the leaves are starting to bud, and people are thinking about selling. Whether they've kind of missed the height of the spring market. I mean, I guess that's to be determined. It doesn't mean it's a bad time to sell. I'm not insinuating that, but have they missed the peak? They might have. Pending also went up from, you can see last week was 263 to 270. Again, overall, that number has been a lot lower in the recent past. We haven't seen anything this high since September of last year. So it's been quite a while. Of course, pendings went up, which makes sense. Closings went up. Same situation, last 30 days, 164. Of course, that doesn't mean anything to us without looking at, past data, but this is much, much higher. No surprise there. Lots of people have been out house shopping. And then in terms of showings per week per listing, the 250 to 500K range, we have had a really nice upswing in Wright County. The buyers are out there. Last week we were at about 3 showings per week per listing. This week we're at 4.2. It'll be very interesting to see what happens next week. Will it continue to stay up like that or not? Again, the week before, that was a fluke. It was really like 3, but technically, when I did the numbers, it was 7.8. So we've been in this like 3, high 2 range, but for us to hit 4 is remarkable for Wright County. There's a lot of buyers out there shopping in that 250 to 500K range. Hennepin dipped down. They were at 5.8 last week. They dropped to 5.1. So you can see the last couple weeks, Hennepin has come down. But again, they're bouncing around the 7s, the 5, the 6. So it's not steady. It kind of depends, of course, on the inventory out there for people to choose from. Again, no surprise that Hennepin County is moving faster than Wright, but you can see this week, the divide is not as great as it normally is. It's like, wow, normally Hennepin moves a lot faster. And this week, they're pretty neck and neck. Average days on market is 25 and a half. 17 is the median. This looks like it's moving faster than the last couple weeks again. So if you're selling, it still looks good in the Wright County area because buyer activity's up. Houses are selling quickly. So the general data here is that it's looking good for you as a home seller. As a home buyer, it's indicating that there's some competition. And I know I don't have this up on my screen, but last week in the Twin Cities at large, we were at a 7 on the market meter, which is our way of saying it's a seller's market. So it's still, it's only April 24th. It's not like it's cold outside. There's no blizzard. There isn't anything influencing things. It does feel like interest rates have come back up a little bit and, kind of thought that would maybe make people pull back, but it just hasn't. I think people have accepted the new normal. And the people that have been waiting and waiting and waiting for things to come down, price of houses, price of interest rates. I don't know if there's just kind of an acceptance out there that, this is just what it is. And we're going to get over it because we got to move on with our life. I don't know. I mean, I think it does get some fatigue factor for all of us that, it's not changing. So there does need to be some acceptance. Well, I wish you a great week and we'll see you next Wednesday.